Hello, this is On the Scene with Mark Anderson of American Free Press. I'm editor of that newspaper. You're at AmericanFreePress.net, and I'm here in Switzerland at the capital of Bern, and I'm with legislator Oskar Freysinger of the Swiss People's Party, known as the SVP here. Oskar, thanks for being with me.
Hello.
Hello. And his party is about 30% of the legislature. It's grown from 9% to 30% over about 20 years. And they've had a lot of legislative victories at the polls with the unique direct democracy system here. And November 28th, the Swiss people voted in favor of deporting criminal immigrants to prevent a criminal underclass from taking root here and to preserve the character and sovereignty of Switzerland. Oskar, your party had a lot to do with getting that on the ballot, correct?
Yes, we had to collect first 100,000 signatures because that's the
standard way.
The standard. And as soon as you have them, then there is a debate in the parliament, the government and parliament and so on. And afterwards it's presented to the people, and people have the last word. They can decide it, because here in Switzerland, people is the sovereign. People are sovereign, and they what they decide is then what has to be practiced, accepted by the political system.
And the political system, as you told me earlier, must abide by that. They are duty-bound to enforce this, not just let it float away.
No, they can't do that. They must abide by it.
Now, I understand that the immigrants make up roughly 20% of Switzerland, but comprise over half the crimes.
Yes. That's true, yes.
And these statistics helped prompt this?
Yes, the problem is we import criminality. I have nothing against foreigners. Everybody has the right to be different, to come from the outside, to bring a new cultural element, to practice his own religion and so on. We are very open for that. The Swiss country and the Swiss people are very open country, and they are very open people, but he has to integrate, he has to accept our laws and to accept our rules. Okay, if somebody comes in and has a very bad behavior, for example, he's breaking the bank or he's raping women or something like that.
Stealing cars, I've heard of that too.
We want to get rid of him. I think it's normal, because one of our duties as politicians is to protect people, even our foreign citizens living in Switzerland, not only the Swiss people. Everybody is suffering when we tolerate such a high percentage of imported crime. So we try to do something, and in the future, people like that, if they are condemned, then the judge will have the obligation to pronounce their exclusion, their expelling from the Swiss country for 5 or to 15 years. It depends on the crime they have made.
And briefly, I understand that a lot of the imported criminality was coming from Eastern European areas, as well as perhaps African and other...
Yes, for example, Eastern Europe or the Balkans are leading in prostitution. They have quite 100% of the prostitution in their hands. It's the Albanian mafia. Or they have the weapon selling, or the drugs. Half of the drugs. The other half part of the drugs is in the hands of the Western Africans.
Was even murders going up here a little bit? Was there some of that?
Yes.
Moving on a little bit, this People's Party had this immigration ballot victory through this signature process that you mentioned. Do you see other victories that lie ahead? You had the minaret issue a year ago, the Islam matter. And do you see other victories lying ahead?
Oh, I think our initiative about the families will be a success, because they decided here in the parliament that people, women, for mostly women, who send their children to how do you call that, kindergarten, they can subtract this, what they pay for the kindergarten, from their salary. They pay less taxes. How do you call it? Impôt.
Well, at any rate, what is the goal of this family initiative?
Yes, and we want that the people who don't send their children to the kindergarten, who want to educate themselves, their children can have the same advantage in their tax paying as the others.
Oh, tax deductions?
Tax deductions.
Homeschooling?
Yes. Exactly.
Oh, so homeschoolers would be afforded the same tax deduction rights as people the others, sending to public?
Because if you don't do that, then you instigate, finally, you encourage people to send their children as soon as possible to a stately school and not to educate by yourself. And if you give the same advantage, then some people who want to educate their children by themselves, they keep them at home longer, not the whole scholarity, but, until they go to the primary school.
Which gives freedom of choice, a level playing field, and gives them the freedom to develop and raise their child as they see fit. And when is this vote, when might this initiative be handled? What is the time frame?
Not before the next elections. I think it will be 2011.
Sometime in that year. That we'll be watching that one in the pages of American Free Press. And lastly, how's Switzerland looking with regards to what other legislators here in Bern have told me, that the EU is rather jealous or envious, and certainly very watchful of the fact that you have lower taxes, more corporations want to come here, and they don't set up shop in the European Union, high tax, high regulation nations. In other words, can Switzerland survive this, the influences from within and outside of Switzerland, to get you to adopt the euro, to get you to get rid of your independence?
We resisted the Holy Roman Empire, we resisted the Habsburgs, we resisted against the Third Reich. We always managed to remain independent and to defend ourselves. And I think it will be like that in the future, because there is a new conscience now growing into, even in the minds of young people. They want to preserve this. They see now what an advantage it is.
The Swiss youth.
Yes, the Swiss youth. They see what an advantage it is to take their destiny in their own hands, not to let others decide for themselves. And so I think we'll be able to resist that all. Okay, the European Union is jealous, that's true, because they make everything wrong. They now try to pay for Greece, and now for Ireland, and tomorrow for Portugal, against all the rules of economicity, and you can't do that.
And kind of forcing them to accept these onerous IMF austerity plans that squeeze the population.
And they would ask to join the European Union, because if we would join the European Union, we would be a big payer. We would be one pouring more milliards of money into this system, which is it's a rotten system. You can't save that system; it will break down.
Are you familiar quickly with Nigel Farage?
Yes,
the European.
I had a phone call with him last week.
Yeah, he's really reading the Riot Act and scolding the European Union as a European Union legislator or parliament member, to tell them Ireland votes no, yet you ignore it, and other countries, Holland, vote no, and yet you ignore it, France, and so on, and they're forced into the EU or tricked into the EU. Well, Oskar Freysinger, thank you for this explanation of the party's positions, what you think is important, some of the things that have been happening.
I think the Swiss system could be a possibility for the new European system who will maybe be built after this one has broken down, because we have this federalism and subsidiarity, and you could organize the whole European Union like Switzerland is organized in this small place. You can extend this system, and as soon as people feel implicated in the decisions, feel responsible for the whole system, because the Swiss system is only as strong as every citizen who makes this system, who represents the system.
Yes, yes.
And as soon as you have obtained such a result, then your system is very strong, because it's supported by the base. The actual European system is not supported by the base. They feel something is happening above their heads, and they have no influence on it. So they are not identifying with that system, and that system must break down.
As Nigel Farage has pointed out, and you're so ably pointing out, lastly, what you described also fits into this idea of accession, where small neighboring regions of Germany, France, and Italy could petition peacefully to voluntarily join the Swiss Confederation if they didn't form a similar system of their own.
Yes.
Is this at least a possibility over the next decade?
I think it will be difficult to realize, because the conscience of the people, or the attachment to the people for their national limits, which are historically grown, is very strong. As soon as they have really to take the decision to join Switzerland, I think for Savoy or Aosta or Baden-Württemberg or Vorarlberg, I think they won't do that. They won't really want to realize that. But it's a pressure we can put on the European Union rather than always to defend ourselves, to defend our system, we try to export it and to influence what's happening in the neighboring countries. I want to make publicity for this Swiss system, which is a very strong and very interesting system, even for the European Union.
Okay, thank you, Oskar Freysinger. And a session may have its time in the future, is what you're saying. We'll see how it goes. You've been watching AmericanFreePress.net. I would add the final comment that Switzerland has a lot to offer for American viewers of this website and American Free Press readers in terms of solving U.S. problems. We'll see you next time here online.